got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
My name is Yinka Babalola.
My name is Ijoma Pelokoro.
My name is Joshua Hassan.
I am Rotarian Omosunde Lawson.
It's Ife Yunwarita Ejeze. My friends call me Ife.
My name is Rotarian Lola Dare.
I'm inviting you to keep watching SOUQ News. It's the right station to tune to.
I like SOUQ News. SOUQ News is good.
I want to charge you all to listen to SOUQ News, watch the news.
You can have unlimited news first time.
Find SOUQ News. Be with SOUQ News. Never switch off. You are better for it. SOUQ News is the real thing.
Listen to their coverage and you'll be glad you did.
Turn to your YouTube, turn to your Instagram, turn to all your digital channels and look for SOUQ News.
Keep watching.
Keep watching.
Please, guys, keep watching
SOUQ News.
The National Theatre, Igomu. Built during the military regime of Olusegun Obasanjo and finished in the time for the Second World Festival of Black Arts and Culture, SOUQ, in 1977. The theatre holds amazing treasures and memories. The artworks fill everyone with pride. The National Arts Theatre is visible from the motorway which connects Lagos Island and the mainland. The National Theatre is packed with the artworks of legendary contemporary Nigerian artists, stained glass walls by Yusuf Grillo, sculptures and murals by Lamidi Fakeye, Erabo Emopai, and many others. It was put to full use for a month as one of the 4 venues of the Second World Black and African Festival of Arts and Culture, tagged SOUQ 77. The complex hosted 16,000 participants from 56 African countries and the diaspora in an unprecedented showcase of African music, fine art, literature, drama, dance, and religion. The National Art Theatre was built and designed by Techno Expert Stroll, a Bulgarian company, mirroring the Palace of Culture and Sports in Varna, Bulgaria. Completed in 1976, the building is one of the largest and most beautiful of its kind on the African continent. It consists of a central hall with 5,000 seats, a collapsible stage that can be quickly rebuilt, a conference hall with 1,600 seats, 2 large exhibition halls, and 2 cinemas with 800 seats each. The theatre complex has a dressing room for artists, a garage, offices, coffee bars, and a buffet. It has indoor TV and radio systems, as well as booths with facilities for simultaneous translation of languages and hectares of lush green lawn around. The majestic structure sits in Igomu like a quiet mountain, mesmerizing visitors and passers-by. The National Theatre, SOUQ Enlightenment.
My name is Veronica Nkechi Eze.
Charles Abana.
My name is Professor Martins Emeje.
Professor Sylvester Odion Akaine.
Keep
watching
SOUQ News TV.
The best news channel online.
It's elevating, it's enlightening, it's educating.
Muhammad Ali found his root in Africa. Rumble in the jungle. I swear the king is humble. Jesse Jackson, O.J. Simpson, this is black history. Andrew Young visit Africa in the late 60s. Legend, Bob Marley make the life different. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X are big names. They fought for black Americans in the old days. We need same revolution in our own ways. Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Mr. Jay-Z, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre and Eddie Murphy. American prosperity ain't complete with African poverty. It's legendary Idris Abdul Karim, and you are on to SOUQ News. You don't touch that dial.
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This is Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advanced development. With our conversation today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Yes, it's another beautiful day, another great opportunity for us to look at issues related to business, finance, policy, and the economy. This is Early Exchange, and I am Femi Ayodele. As you know, that Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advanced development. Today, we'll be looking at issues related with women. It's a special month for women, and it's important we have this kind of conversation to draw advocacy as regards empowerment for women, and to also look at their roles when it comes to nation building. We're going to have a special guest who's going to talk about this. Don't forget, you can also be part of this conversation. All you just have to do, go on our social media platform using the hashtag Early Exchange to express your view and let your voice be heard. Early Exchange will always get bigger and better, and so it is, because you're always there for us. Glad to know you're joining us this morning. Blessing is also here. She's getting bigger and also better.
Okay, I like that. That's progress. Good morning, Femi.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm good.
Great. Good to see you.
Same here. We thank you for being a part of Early Exchange today. It's going to be a wonderful one. Yes, we're still in Women's History Month because the month of March has not ended, and that is why we'll still be talking about women and development in Africa. Today we'll bring to you a special guest whom I would not want to reveal until that time comes, but she's someone who's played and is still playing a very significant role in women's rights, pushing for women's rights in Africa. Let's bring to you the news updates, and thereafter the show will continue. Stay tuned.
Hello, welcome to News Update on SOUQ News TV. I'm Ikenna Mba. In efforts to curb inflationary pressures, the CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria, has raised the monetary policy rate by 200 basis points to 24.75%. The committee stressed the need to address Nigeria's food crisis by tackling food insecurity and implementing government agricultural intervention programs. CBN Governor Olayemi Cardoso announced the decisions of the 296th MPC meeting, disclosing that the committee has increased the cash reserve ratio CRR to plus 100 to minus 300 basis points. Additionally, the CBN hiked the interest rates by 400 basis points, pushing the benchmark to 22.75% from 18.75%. As a significant tightening measure to combat Nigeria's high inflation, currently at 30.70%. Still taking stories from the MPC meeting held yesterday, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has instructed deposit money banks to expedite efforts to increase their capital base, aiming to fortify the financial system against potential risks. Governor Olayemi Cardoso has conveyed this directive after the 294th meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee MPC on March 26, 2024 in Abuja. Whilst addressing the press, Cardoso underscored the importance of ensuring the stability and soundness of the banking sector, emphasizing the need for banks to adhere to regulatory guidelines and accelerate their recapitalization. The committee highlighted the bank's industry's resilience, but stressed the imperative of bolstering the system against emerging risks, especially in an increasingly globalized environment. Away from Nigeria, Ghana's Finance Minister Mohamed Amin Adam says the country is set to expedite the remaining debt restructuring negotiations as the government seeks to revamp over $13 billion of international bonds amidst its worst economic crisis in decades, supported by a $3 billion International Monetary Fund IMF program. Following a preliminary deal reached in January to restructure $5.4 billion of loans with official creditors, formal discussions have commenced with one bondholder group under non-disclosure agreements. The minister revealed that the government had received counter-proposals from two bondholder groups, which will be carefully evaluated in coming weeks. Additionally, negotiations with independent power producers, IPPs, have been concluded with an agreement expected to be signed in the next 2 or 3 weeks to address arrears totaling $1.5 billion. Away from Africa now, Britain's Financial Conduct Authority has unveiled guidelines aimed at curbing misleading advertisements on social media platforms and cautioned influencers about the legal repercussions of endorsing financial products without regulatory approval, potentially constituting a criminal offense. As social media increasingly becomes integral to marketing strategies, the authority emphasized the necessity for advertisements to be transparent, fair, and devoid of misleading information, stressing the inclusion of risk warnings, while stressing the need for influencers who are individuals compensated for promoting products on social media to obtain approval for their advertisement to avoid legal consequences and protect their reputation. The authority urged financial firms to exercise caution when promoting complex products on platforms with limited characters or space. Finally, oil prices declined for a second consecutive day earlier today following reports of a surge in crude stockpiles in the U.S., the world's largest oil consumer, alongside indications that major producers are unlikely to adjust their output policy at an upcoming technical meeting. Brent crude futures for May delivery dropped at 0.9% to $85.51 a barrel, while the more active traded June contract fell by 0.8% to $84.95. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures for May delivery also decreased by 0.8% to $80. The retreat in prices this week comes after reaching their highest level since October, remaining approximately 3% above the average closing price in the first week of March. Analysts attribute the decline to a sharp increase in U.S. crude inventories and expectations of OPEC Plus maintaining its output policy unchanged until their full ministerial gathering in June, with the group set to review market conditions and members' implementation of output cuts during an online meeting on the 3rd of April. With that, it's a wrap on News Update. I'm Ikenamba. Do have a productive day.
All right, thank you very much for taking us around the world with the latest news development. And now we'll go on a short break. When we return, we'll kick off our major story for today, which is to look at the plight of women and also the importance of investing in women. Stay with us.
in the heart of sub-Saharan Africa, where commerce meets progress. Welcome to SOUQ News, your source for business, economy, and development insight that drive nations forward. From the vibrant streets of Lagos, Africa's fastest economic hub, SOUQ News takes you on a journey of discovery, analyzing and reporting the facts that lay the foundation for growth and development. We don't just report the news, we create it. SOUQ News is more than a channel. It is a catalyst for change, spotlighting the stories that shape economies, inspire entrepreneurs, and fuel progress. Covering business, finance, technology, energy, and many more, SOUQ News provides a daily deep dive into the stories that matter, interviews with industry titans, and analysis that empowers your understanding of economic landscape. Join us daily as we dissect, discuss, and deliver the most relevant and factual news on business and the economy. SOUQ News is your trusted guide, empowering you with the knowledge to make informed decisions.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This is Early Exchange.
I'm okay.
My name is Raymond Bola Brown.
Hi, my name is Fred Amata, and you are on to SOUQ News.
If you are watching this channel for the first time, make sure you continue to watch it, because this is SOUQ News.
Shout out to SOUQ News. Actually, I don't know. I really enjoyed the little moment I spent with you, and I think with more of this.
SOUQ News. Here's the SOUQ News, who had the courage to transcend a locked-off camera and actually have a conversation with a human being. It's a pleasure, SOUQ News. Thank you very much.
Idumota Market. Eko Idumota, once a residential neighborhood, is home to Idumota Market, located on Lagos Island. It is one of the oldest and arguably one of the largest markets in West Africa. Idumota is a historic neighborhood adjacent to the Lagos port that facilitated the slave trade, and later, under the British indirect rule, it surrounded to exports that fueled the colonial enterprise. Idumota was also the location of an armed forces remembrance cenotaph called Soja Idumota, built as a monument to Nigerian soldiers who served with the West African Frontier Force. An Eyo Masquerade statue and a clock tower are also some monuments at Idumota. Idumota Market is so popular that large sales are recorded as early as 7 a.m. The market is made up of hundreds of locked-up shops occupying several multi-story buildings, with some measuring about 5 or more floors. In 2010, the Lagos State government demolished some illegal structures in order to improve vehicular and human movement in and around the markets. During weekdays, the neighborhood of Idumota is densely populated by shoppers, traders, and bus passengers. From the Carter Bridge, ascending into Lagos Island, passengers can see the neighborhood before disembarking at their final destination. Idumota Market accommodates the substantial inflow of imported goods. The bulk of import from abroad are routed first through Idumota and then on to other markets through Nigeria and other West and Central African countries. The energy of private Idumota traders and wholesalers facilitate this activity, where millions of US dollars worth of wholesale is exchanged daily. Idumota Market, SOUQ Enlightenment.
My name is Eze.
Charles Abana.
My name is Professor Martins Emeje.
Professor Sylvester Odion Akaine.
Keep
watching
SOUQ News TV.
The best news channel online.
It's elevating, it's enlightening, it's educating.
Muhammad Ali found his root in Africa. Rumble in the jungle. I swear the king is humble. Jesse Jackson, O.J. Simpson, this is black history. Andrew Young visit Africa in the late 60s. Legend, Bob Marley make the life different. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X are big names. They fought for black Americans in the old days. We need same revolution in our own ways. Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, Mr. Jay-Z, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre and Eddie Murphy. American prosperity ain't complete with African poverty. It's legendary Idris Abdul Karim, and you are on to SOUQ News. You don't touch that dial.
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This is Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. With our conversation today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Good to know you're still with us on Early Exchange. Yes, our first point of call this morning will be women and empowerment in Africa. So let's look at what has been the reason why women haven't been so much enabled as they would want, or as we would want to, because women form half the population in Africa, and internationally women are considered to be one of the pillars of economic growth. But regardless of the progress made so far by women who have pushed for the rights of women, who have pushed for a better society for women, there is still much to be desired. We're joined soon by our guest, but before that, we need to take a quick break and then bring in our guest.
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
My name is Yinka Babalola.
My name is Ijoma Pelokoro.
My name is Joshua Hassan.
I am Rotarian or Mosunde Lawson. It's Ife Yunwarita Ejeze. My friends call me Ife.
My name is Rosemary Dare.
I'm inviting you to keep watching SOUQ News. It's the right station to tune to.
I like SOUQ News. SOUQ News is good.
I want to charge you all to listen to SOUQ News, watch the news. You can have unlimited news, first time.
Find SOUQ News. Be with SOUQ News. Never switch off. You are better for it. SOUQ News is the real thing.
Listen to their coverage and you'll be glad you did.
Turn to your YouTube, turn to your Instagram, turn to all your digital channels and look for SOUQ News.
Keep watching.
Keep watching.
Please, guys, keep watching.
SOUQ News.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This is Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. With our conversation today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development. In the heart of sub-Saharan Africa, where commerce meets progress, welcome to SOUQ News, your source for business, economy, and development insight that drive nations forward. From the vibrant streets of Lagos, Africa's fastest economic hub, SOUQ News takes you on a journey of discovery, analyzing and reporting the facts that lay the foundation for growth and development. We don't just report the news, we create it. SOUQ News is more than a channel. It is a catalyst for change, spotlighting the stories that shape economies, inspire entrepreneurs, and fuel progress. Covering business, finance, technology, energy, and many more, SOUQ News provides a daily deep dive into the stories that matter, interviews with industry titans, and analysis that empowers your understanding of economic landscape. Join us daily as we dissect, discuss, and deliver the most relevant and factual news on business and the economy. SOUQ News is your trusted guide, empowering you with the knowledge to make informed decisions.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This is Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. With our conversation today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
So let's talk women and empowerment in Africa. To talk about this with us, we have someone who's a women's rights advocate, policy expert, and politician. She's also a serving member at the Rwandan. She's a Rwandan member of the East African Legislative Assembly, 7 for the second term, and she is Fatuma Undangiza. She joins us this morning virtually from Tanzania. Good morning. Welcome to Early Exchange.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well, and thank you for being a part of the show. You've done so much trying to push for women's rights, and many of the women like you have done their bit in ensuring that women have rights to education, have economic opportunities, and even political opportunities. But there is still much that women want to do. What can you say about what has been done so far and how women can get to the next level?
Yes, thank you so much for having me on the show. Women in Africa, I would say, are the backbone of the economies of Africa. They constitute over 50% of the population. They are mothers, housewives, they care for families, they are community builders, they are peace builders when conflicts break. They cater for their homes, they cater for their communities, and I would say they are also great contributors to national development. A lot has been done in Africa for the last decades, especially after the Beijing Platform for Action, but more needs to be done in the area of decision making. Although Africa has made strides, and most of our parliaments in Africa are now close between 22% to 30%. Some, like Rwanda, has even gone to 61%. In the area of executive leadership, again, you have women, the number of women rising. At the local governance level, you also have women leaders. In the area of the economy, out of the 90% SMEs in Africa, at least a third are women. But despite all this progress that have been made by women, there are still challenges. Women are still constrained by the cultural traditions. In some parts of Africa, women cannot inherit property and land. They are still unemployed. They still face discrimination. So there are still challenges, but I would say that women are the pillars of development in our countries, and it's a call to action, especially as we are about to conclude the Women's Month with the theme, Invest in Women and Accelerating Progress. It's a call to governments of Africa. It's a call to different levels of leadership to ensure that women are at the center of development in Africa.
All right, glad to have you join us once again. It's a special month for women, and the theme for this year's celebration is Invest in Women, Accelerate Progress. But I would like to find out from you, when we talk about investment in women, I would like you to expatiate on this. What kind of investment should we talk about? And then why do you think is more necessary, more than ever, to bring up this advocacy of investment in women at a crucial time like this?
Yeah, invest in women means a lot. It is a broad concept. We need to invest in women's education because up to now, when it comes to illiteracy, we still have many women who cannot read and write. We need women to be skilled in technologies because today we know we're already in the information and digital technologies, and if you're talking about doing business, you need at least to have the basics in technology. We need to ensure that women have access and control over resources, including land, access to credit. We need to ensure that we even increase on the budgets, make sure that the budgets that we spend are gender responsive. We talk about agriculture. We still have many women in agriculture sector, and most of them are still using subsistence. They are still subsistence farmers using the hoe. They need to have tractors. They need to have access to fertilizers. They need to have access to modern farming. We talk about health. We still have women dying, giving birth to children. We need to ensure that we improve on health care facilities to women, should have access to insurance. They should have access to health facilities from the time they conceive up to the time they give birth. We still have challenges where women are still fetching water using the bucket, and in very far places, we need to ensure that water facilities are closer to women. So really the word investment is broad, because as we speak about women, they are undertaking multiple roles. And therefore, we need to ensure that at practical level need, they have access to basic facilities to be able to reduce on the workload. But at the same time, they need to have access to technology. They need to have access to skilled education. And here we also have to talk about girls to make sure that they attend schools. But more to that, we need to have women at decision-making table, so that decisions affecting their lives, they should have a stake in that.
Talking about women having a say in decisions that affect their lives, you helped to create the National Women's Council and its regional and local framework to enable women, in order to empower them to achieve political and economic parity. Now, when it comes to the political scene, in Africa, Rwanda has the highest number of women representation. What has helped in making that possible for Rwanda, and what can other African countries learn from that?
In Rwanda, the number one thing that was done was creating, enabling legal and policy framework to ensure that you have more women in decision making. So it implies that there were some discriminatory laws that were denying women to participate in leadership, but also in the aspect of economy. And most of these laws have been reviewed to ensure that we have gender-sensitive laws. But also, in 2003, women, first of all, had been organized into what is called the National Women Council, from the grassroots to the national level, so that they can improve on their confidence, on their self-esteem, so that they can elect their leaders, so that they can be groomed into leadership. And in 2003, we had to make sure that women's rights, women's agenda in decision-making, including quotas, were enshrined in the 2003 Constitution, where at least a minimum of 30% of all positions of leadership and decision-making had to be occupied by women. But in addition to that, we also ensured that in the fundamental principles of the Constitution, the issue of gender parity was also enshrined in the Constitution. And that's why in 2003, when the first elections took place, after the transition process, we had close to 48% of women. And as we speak now, it is 61%. But of course, a lot has also been done in terms of building institutions, the gender machineries. We have the Ministry of Gender that spearheads gender policies and also monitors the implementation. But we also have another institution that is also embedded in our Constitution called the Gender Monitoring Office, whose role is to monitor whether every institution of government, even the private sector, in their decision-making positions, there is a minimum of 30% representation, and even political parties. So it's mainly the political will and commitment that is manifested in the policies that are gender responsive and legislation that are gender responsive, but also women being organized, women being groomed for leadership, and also ensuring that there are no discriminatory laws that hinder women's participation.
All right, now let's talk about gender responsive financing. You're aware that when it comes to investment or the advocacy for investment in women, or when you talk about the issue of empowerment, requires funds of financing. Talk to us, what are some of the challenges confronting implementing this gender responsive financing in Africa, and what are the solutions to these problems?
Yeah, in the first place, when we are talking about budgeting, many African countries, because of the lack of capacities, they just budget, they just get experts who just budget based on numbers and say, okay, in this sector, infrastructure, we need so many billions of francs or shillings or nairas, and they don't think about the people, and the people are not homogeneous. It's men and women. Even among men and women, you have rural people, rural women and urban women, and therefore the first thing is to build the capacity of the responsible institutions and governments to ensure that they are able to analyze their budgets using the gender lens. And of course, they need to be backed by statistics. Because, for example, if we are to come up with the health facilities without considering the concerns of women, you might just find a health center with no maternity leave, with no maternity facility, and yet women have to give birth, or maybe no space for children. And therefore, it is important that when one is planning, you have to take into consideration the gender responsive aspect. Same applies to agriculture. Yes, we know majority of women are in the agriculture sector, but of course, when it comes to giving out fertilizers and modern tools of farming, in most cases, it's the breadwinners who are men. So again, it's important that, for example, if you are planning training, you not only train men, you also train women, because at the end of the day, women are the ones who are so much involved in agriculture. So you need to have a gender lens, understand the context, understand the cultural setting, the status of women and men, and take all this into consideration in the budgeting. And of course, for implementation purposes, it's also important that parliaments play a key role, because it is the parliaments that pass budgets. And in some countries like Rwanda and even Uganda, before a ministry, they approve a budget of a ministry, you have to make sure that you have what we call gender budget compliance, showing that you are in the planning process, your budget is responsive to the needs of men and women. So it's a process, but we learn from day to day. And it's the only way we can ensure that there is equitable distribution of opportunities and resources for our people, men and women, boys and girls.
Regardless of the policies, the progress that have been made in policies that protect women's rights, because almost all countries in Africa have ratified the Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, but yet we still have some of it happening. For instance, female genital mutilation and the right to inheritance. We still have these discriminations and these practices against women happening in African societies. What is the missing link? What is missing from the point where laws are made against these discriminations and practices against women and the point of implementation, upholding the law?
The biggest challenge we still have in most of African society is cultural practices that are still discriminatory to women And therefore, and then, of course, these cultures that also explains why we still have patriarchy in our society. But sometimes even the religious beliefs, there is still a belief that in some societies, women have to go through female genital mutilation and other harmful practices such as early marriages, gender-based violence. And then, of course, most of these harmful practices are still take place in homes, in communities, and because of the cultural mindsets, sometimes even some women support it, the aunties, the older women, and therefore much as you can have the laws and the policies, the mindsets and the cultural thinking in these communities still have the way they perceive women and girls. And therefore, I think the missing link is to see how, one, we sensitize communities to abandon these harmful practices, sensitize them about human rights, that women's rights are fundamental human rights and they have to be respected. But also, governments have to enact laws that punish these harmful traditions, the practice of these harmful traditions. So the enforcement aspect of this law and also the policy is also very important, because in some countries you'll have very good policies and laws, but they are not implemented. So I think the call to action is to strengthen enforcement of the laws. In places where you don't have the relevant laws, enact laws and make them so stringent so that the perpetrators of, for example, rape against women or FGM have to think twice, because at the end of the day, they have to face the law.
All right, it's time for us to go on a short break. When we return, we'll continue our conversation with our special guest. Stay with us.
We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas touch and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
My name is Dr. Ajili Tobi. My name is Etemari Glover. Naomi, well done, and shout out to SOUQ News.
Shout out to SOUQ News. I want to encourage everyone to keep watching SOUQ News.
Shout out to SOUQ News, and yes, tune into them.
Keep watching SOUQ News. They are one in town.
Hey, we're watching SOUQ News.
Keep watching SOUQ News.
Keep watching SOUQ News. Catch them on YouTube and all social media channels.
Hey, my name is Frank Edowo, and I'm imploring you. No, forget that. I am forcing you, coercing you to always stay tuned to SOUQ News for your news requirements.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This is Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. With our conversation today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Yes, indeed, we're still in the business of shaping policy and advancing development by looking at the plight of women. And when it comes to the issue of empowerment for women, what should be the next line of actions? And we still have our special guest with us. We still have Fatima Ndagiza, who is also a member of parliament and the East African Legislative Assembly. Glad to know you're still there with us.
Thank you.
Now let's talk about the issue of human rights for women. And when you talk about this subject, the greatest challenge has to be the issue of gender equality. But are those who argue, is it all about equality or equity? What's your take on this?
The word equality is equality in terms of opportunities, ensure that men, women, boys and girls, it is really a human rights issue, making sure that all human beings, irrespective of their gender, irrespective of their status, are treated equally. But the word equity is that process, because equality is the destination, whereas equity is to recognize that there are some categories of people. It could be, in this case, it will be women, because of the many years of historical marginalization, due to culture, due to structural inequalities. There need to be a level playing field, and that level playing field, so that they can be able to attain equality, is, for example, if you recognize that women do not have access to in property, or in terms of doing business, when it comes to tenders, it's mainly the men who get the big tenders. The first steps that you have to take is to ensure that you come up with affirmative actions, for example, to allow women to have access to credit, probably at a low interest rate, or in sometimes, because we know that many of them do not have collateral security, probably a government or other funding institutions could come up with a guarantee fund to help women have access to credit to a point where they are a level of now competing equally with other members of the society. So that will be an affirmative action, and it will be an equity approach, so that you bridge the gender disparity. Same applies to education. You know that many girls up to now do not go for science subjects because of the socialization. You might have special programs, probably scholarship, to promote girls, to attract girls for science and subjects, so probably some confidence building measures, make sure that in schools, probably girls who go for science subjects are rewarded from time to time, so that you can have a critical mass of girls who are in science subjects. So those are some of the examples of equity solutions, to an extent that a time when you realize that there is no need for such affirmative action, you remove them. So that is the difference between equity and equality. And of course, they are all human rights concepts.
Let's talk about cooperation amongst women and mentorship, mentoring those who are already in leadership, mentoring young girls and even women in leadership, whether it's in business or in the political scene. Now, it is said that women don't like themselves, and that when you have a woman come out to run for a position, you don't find other women rally behind her. So how can cooperation amongst women be fostered in Africa?
Yes, yeah, that's a challenge, but maybe we also need to know that women are not homogeneous. They're also people who have interests, and sometimes they compete among themselves. But of course, we need to build solidarity among women so that they can be able to jointly fight for their cause as women. And that's why I think the issue of mentorship comes in, the issue of training, so that the issue of conscious reasoning, so that they understand their situation. They understand that women shouldn't be enemies of women, or even enemies of society, because at the end of the day, the issue of gender inequality is a societal, social construct, and it affects both men and women. And therefore, there is need for them to come together. So it's all about sensitization, it's about training, it's about conscious raising and mentorship, so that they understand they need to support each other, because sometimes you even have women in leadership who might even forget other women. So there is also need in terms of mentorship, but also making sure that you bring others up so that they can also join the ladder. So I think it's a call for women to work together to be able to address their challenges. So solidarity is critical.
All right, now let's make reference to you. You are a women, advocate, a politician, and also a lawmaker, and I learned you're serving second term now. I would like you to give us your personal account of the challenges women go through when it comes to this arena, which is very peculiar to men. So what are some of these challenges, and how have you been able to maneuver or manage these challenges, and what will be your advocacy for women who want to go into politics or run for public offices?
Yes, I think the biggest challenge may be coming from talking about myself. I started my journey a long time ago, and especially in 1994 after the genocide against Tutsi in Rwanda. And it was a time when the country was really in destruction. Every institution had been destroyed. We were starting from scratch, and the country needed educated men and women to support it. So, and that's how I started, joining the ministry in charge of gender, but also because I had passion for women, also working with women's civil society. And the challenge is always one to have the confidence that you can do it. Of course, when you are still in the low levels of leadership or technical levels, the resistance is not as much as when you go to
we're out of
higher
time
places.
on this conversation. We wish we had more time to get more from you, because women really need to be inspired by people like you. We've been talking with Fatima Ndankiza, Member of Parliament and the East African Legislative Assembly in Rwanda. She's joined us today virtually from Tanzania, where she is there doing some business for women and assignments as well, pushing forward for women's rights. We thank you so much for being a part of Early Exchange today. We'll find another time to bring you back on so we can look at other areas that concerns women empowerment in Africa. We'll take a break now. Early Exchange continues after this time. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
My name is Yinka Babalola.
My name is Ijoma Pelokoro.
My name is Joshua Hassan.
I am Rotarian or Mosunde Lawson. It's Ife Yonwarita Ejeze. My friends call me Ife.
My name is Rotarian Lola Dare.
I'm inviting you to keep watching SOUQ News. It's the right station to tune to.
I like SOUQ News. SOUQ News is good.
I want to charge you all to listen to SOUQ News, watch the news. You can have unlimited news first time.
Find SOUQ News. Be with SOUQ News. Never switch off. You are better for it. SOUQ News is the real thing.
Listen to their coverage and you'll be glad you did.
Turn to your YouTube, turn to your Instagram, turn to all your digital channels and look for SOUQ News.
Keep watching.
Keep watching.
Please, guys, keep watching.
SOUQ News.
Idumota Market. Eko Idumota, once a residential neighborhood, is home to Idumota Market located on Lagos Island. It is one of the oldest and arguably one of the largest markets in West Africa. Idumota is a historic neighborhood adjacent to the Lagos port that facilitated the slave trade and later, under the British indirect rule, it surrounded to exports that fueled the colonial enterprise. Idumota was also the location of an armed forces remembrance cenotaph called Soja Idumota, built as a monument to Nigerian soldiers who served with the West African Frontier Force. An Eyo masquerade statue and a clock tower are also some monuments at Idumota. Idumota Market is so popular that large sales are recorded as early as 7 a.m. The market is made up of hundreds of locked-up shops occupying several multi-story buildings, with some measuring about 5 or more floors. In 2010, the Lagos State government demolished some illegal structures in order to improve vehicular and human movement in and around the markets. During weekdays, the neighborhood of Idumota is densely populated by shoppers, traders and bus passengers. From the Carter Bridge ascending into Lagos Island, passengers can see the neighborhood before disembarking at their final destination. Idumota Market accommodates the substantial inflow of imported goods. The bulk of import from abroad are routed first through Idumota and then on to other markets through Nigeria and other West and Central African countries. The energy of private Idumota traders and wholesalers facilitate this activity, where millions of US dollars worth of wholesale is exchanged daily. Idumota Market, SOUQ Enlightenment. We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas touch and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job. Tafawa Balewa Square, TBS. Tafawa Balewa Square was initially used as a horsing ground called Lagos Race Course. The edifice was constructed by General Yakubu Gowon in 1972 and named after Nigeria's first Prime Minister, Sir Tafawa Balewa. Tafawa Balewa Square is located at 45/57 Marse Bangboshe Street on Lagos Island, Lagos, and referred to as TBS. TBS is a 50,000-seater capacity venue and houses the Remembrance Arcade, the 26-story Independence House, which at a time was the country's tallest building. When Lagos served as the country's seat of government, the National Assembly Complex was within the TBS. Also in the square are the National Broadcasting Commission Office, the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency Office, shopping centers, travel agencies, restaurants, car parking lots, and a bus terminal. Tafawa Balewa Square is adorned with beautiful statues of white horses and red eagles, symbols of strength and dignity. Our historic neighbors include the King's College and the Holy Cross Cathedral. Tafawa Balewa Square hosted some of the country's memorable events, such as the Independence Day in 1960, when Nigeria gained independence from Britain, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which is celebrated annually on January 15. The edifice is a national cultural asset. Tafawa Balewa Square, SOUQ Enlightenment. the heart of sub-Saharan Africa, where commerce meets progress. Welcome to SOUQ News, your source for business, economy, and development insight that drive nations forward. From the vibrant streets of Lagos, Africa's fastest economic hub, SOUQ News takes you on a journey of discovery, analyzing and reporting the facts that lay the foundation for growth and development. We don't just report the news, we create it. SOUQ News is more than a channel. It is a catalyst for change, spotlighting the stories that shape economies, inspire entrepreneurs, and fuel progress. Covering business, finance, technology, energy, and many more, SOUQ News provides a daily deep dive into the stories that matter, interviews with industry titans, and analysis that empowers your understanding of economic landscape. Join us daily as we dissect, discuss, and deliver the most relevant and factual news on business and the economy. SOUQ News is your trusted guide, empowering you with the knowledge to make informed decisions.
The challenge of governance is to see how we can leverage what is on the ground and convert this to wealth for the people.
Russia, China are gaining entry into Africa, and it would appear that some Western countries are losing out.
You're working as an expatriate worker, then you're paid in your currency. But then if you must spend those money, you need to convert those money to the local currency to spend.
For Social Security to work, we need to know exactly how many we are. We don't have a precise number. We need to know exact location of people.
When we address this exchange rate volatility, we will see definitely cost of goods and services will come down.
From a security point of view, we should employ the technology to ensure that we can track individuals and goods within the continent.
This is Early Exchange with Femi Ayodele.
You know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development. With our conversation today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Yes, it's still your favorite program, and if you're just joining us, we have you covered. You're at the right place at the right time. Earlier we talked about the need to invest in women, and now it's time for us to talk about renewable energy in Africa. When it comes to energy resources, talk about water, hydro, biomass, and the rest. Africa is blessed, but it's been challenging maximizing these resources. And what are the issues? What are the problems? Let's see what our guest will have to say about this. He's an expert when it comes to renewable energy. We are being joined by Nutsu Jojo Cyril, who is the former head ICT unit, Office of the Honorable Minister for Science and Technology. Glad you have joined us on the next thing this morning. I hope you can hear me. All right, if you can hear me, let's start the conversation looking at renewable energy in Africa. From the introduction that I did, I said that when it comes to energy resources, Africa is blessed. Talk about solar, talk about water, talk about we are blessed. But how will you assess the rate at which African countries are maximizing these resources to improve energy supply in Africa?
Start by saying that when it comes to utilization of natural resources, it has over time been a record that countries blessed with enormous natural resources have failed to graciously utilize them to the benefit of their populace. To this effect, I will personally say that Africa has not done wonderfully well in this regard, and this is our inability to conduct research and development to adopt adequate technologies to be able to put into proper use these natural resources. For instance, when we look at the case of Nigeria, We are looking at our natural resources in the energy sector, the oil and gas, the coal, waste, municipal waste, biomass, and so many others have not been properly used. Rather, they've constituted a nuisance to us, because looking at the oil and gas, we flare gas, which has endangered the lives of people living in the region where these gas reserves are. And when it comes to municipal waste, our waste management system is not apt. I will mark it below 50. When it comes to other natural resources, same. And if you look at it, this cuts across the, so to say, substantially in percentage across the entire West Africa region. So I would say that we've not done wonderfully well as Africans to manage natural resources, to put our need for energy to proper perspective to better our lives. Thank you.
All right, the world is moving, gradually moving away from fossil fuel to renewable energy, but Africa is still dwelling much on fossil fuel. South Africa, for instance, is saying that it will burn coal for a long time, indirectly saying that it is not in a hurry to transition to renewable energy. What are your thoughts on this?
I don't have any reservation with respect to it. Thank you.
Even on the issue of generating energy from coal and the transition to renewable energy, there seems to be a kind of hypocrisy around this. Now, while the West is advocating for renewable energy, some countries in the West are seriously generating energy with coal. What do you make of this?
Just as I rightly said in my last statement, you see, you use the word transition. When we are transiting, you are transiting bearing in mind the need of the moment. If the need of the moment cannot be postponed or transit so fast, so they can go on with burning of coal while they embrace new technologies and new ways of generating energy. For instance, have you ever considered using methanol to generate energy? And how will it help in the scheme of things when you talk about quality of energy? Thank you.
All right, you just made reference to what we also need to talk about, which is how to also generate energy from methanol. You've done some projects in this regard. I would like you to shed more light on this, give us orientation how it's going to work, and then how can Africa key into this?
Let me start by saying I will use Nigeria as a case study here and refer to some other countries across the globe. Firstly, I will say that methanol is a ubiquitous liquid, is a base liquid for the production of so many materials that we use. But coming to energy, methanol can be used as a feedstock, power energy generating plants, gas turbines. So you now have a methanol-fired turbine to generate electricity. And this electricity is quite sustainable and the quality is very high. Let me give you an instance. If you have a 7 kVA generator in your house and you generate electricity with it, and that generator, the electricity generated from that generator happens to shock you, you will find out that you will end up not being electrocuted, though you might feel some shock, you will not feel fine, as compared to if the national grid, talking of the power generating body of the country, electricity from that shocks you, you might be electrocuted. So when we talk about quality of electricity, we are talking about how much can this go in terms of production. If we have a production line and it's powered by small generators, you won't get the best. But if it's powered by big generators, you get the best. So when we talk about energy, we talk about quality of energy. So if you are looking at renewable energy and looking at methanol, I will tell you that let us go for methanol generated electricity for one singular reason. One, we have the raw materials in Nigeria. What are the raw materials for methanol production? We have the coal, we have natural gas, we have municipal waste and biomass, decomposable municipal waste, so to say. So if you look at this feedstock, how have they been used in helping the socio-economic life of Nigerians? You find out that they have not been optimally used. How do we use them? Nigeria today pays penalty. International oil companies, IOC, pay penalty for flaring gas, and this penalty goes into the gas flare penalty funds. What are these funds used for? Are they used for the purpose of ensuring that gas is not being flared, or are they used for other purposes? I will tell you this: they are not on record. They are not properly used to solve the energy challenge in the country. So I will advocate, and we are still advocating, that there is this policy, the National Policy for Methanol Fuel Production Technology, that was approved by the Federal Executive Council and is gazetted. This policy says and states that the national roadmap to energy sustainability can be achieved by deploying methanol to generate electricity. As we speak today, that policy is in existence, and there is actually no methanol plant on ground. So how do we move forward from there, from where we are? I will actually ask those that are in authority that have this on their table to understand that the socio-economic growth of Nigeria cannot be achieved without Nigeria embracing a methanol-driven economy because of the availability of raw materials in Nigeria, the population of the citizens in Nigeria, and the fact that most of the things Nigerians use are derivatives of methanol. That means the methanol value chain has to be critically looked at. What is the methanol value chain? The entire processes to determine, can I go on? The entire processes to determine which feedstock to use for methanol production. That is an assignment for a group of people to carry out. Setting up a methanol production facility, entire assignment for other people to carry out. Production of the methanol itself, another assignment. Before that, conveying or piping the feedstock to the methanol plant is another assignment for people to carry out. The production of the methanol itself is another assignment. The haulage of the methanol to where it to be used is another assignment. The utilization of the methanol itself in various sectors. In the construction sector, where you use methanol for particle boards production, for adhesives, the chemical sector, where methanol is a base liquid for disinfectants, insecticides, and all whatnot. The production line sector, where we have the plastics and the plastics. Methanol is a base liquid for that. The textile sector, the energy sector, you can go on and on. The health sector, the agri sector. So if we have this properly integrated, we'll find out that we'll have a value chain that will create enough jobs and empower people. Because when people cry that they don't have proper means, adequate means of livelihood, you now ask the question: what are they contributing to human existence to have this adequate means of livelihood? It is the work of government, the work of the organized private sector to create this opportunity so that the average Nigerian will wake up in the morning and say, yes, I have this job to do and it is profitable and dignifying. So I will ordinarily, as we have been doing, advocate that let everybody focus and look into the policy document, National Policy for Methanol Fuel Production Technology. This way, we will generate enough electricity. Then we cannot look at renewable energy. Because if you look at renewable energy, its value chain is also a very large one. What do I mean by that? Renewable energy, we are talking about how do you even house the energy that is generated? We're talking about lithium batteries. Nigeria, from recent records, have enough lithium reserve of high-grade lithium in various parts of the country. And what is government doing with respect to that? How do we intend to ensure that these reserves are put into productive lines to be able to have products that will empower the people produced here. Now, if you talk about lithium batteries are imported into the country, whereas we have the capacity to produce lithium battery in Nigeria because we have the feedstock. All we need to do is to embrace the appropriate technologies. So coming to the real thing that needs to be done, we have to critically acquire technology or grow technology, or by buying technology. Where we find out that the global trend has crossed certain lines and we need to make sure we need to buy technology. We need to call those that have practiced this to come and partner with us, so that at the end of the day, what are we doing? We are not reinventing the wheel, rather we are taking it up from where they stop and maybe go into further R&D to progress the whole show. So Nigeria, to address her energy needs to critically, one, utilize all natural resources using proper technologies to be able to solve the energy challenges of the country. Let me stop at that for now. Thank you.
All right. The methanol market is projected to be worth approximately $61.7 billion by the year 2030. There's a huge market for it now. Those countries who are already leading in terms of the export of methanol, we have Saudi Arabia, the United States and Netherlands. And then the import side, we also have China having high demand for that, the US and even Netherlands again. But you've talked about how much Nigeria can do with methanol. And you also mentioned technology, research and development, talking about partnering with those who have the technology while we have the primary products here. But like we've seen in cases where Nigeria has the primary products but does not have the technology, it doesn't always seem to go right. It still remains more like an exploitation for those who come with the technology. So what can be done right in this case to ensure that the value chain is really set up and all the benefits Nigeria can have from methanol it has?
Let me take us back to an incident that happened in, I think 2 years back, if my memory serves me right, where a certain volume of fuel, petroleum PMS, was imported into the country, and users complained about it knocking their vehicles. And they said it is a blend of methanol. That was actually a phase of the implementation of the national policy of methanol for production that was wrongly done. The policy never stated that methanol should be blended with PMS in certain ratio outside the shores of Nigeria. It stated that methanol should be blended with PMS in a certain ratio for spark plug engine vehicles in Nigeria. The product blending should be done in Nigeria using certain additives. But here we are, the operators, the importers of these products went ahead, went to another country, blended the product and brought it in, and it was not compatible with the vehicles that are being used here, or blended the wrong ratio. That means we are exporting our jobs. Nigerians would have done that blending. And if that blending is done here, where we make mistakes, we'll correct them. But that was done, and I think we've learned from that as a mistake. Going forward, the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources, with the National Local Content Management Board and NMPCL, in 2021, if my memory still serves me right, January or February, so signed a business investment decision of $2.3 billion to build a methanol, a fertilizer to methanol plant complex in Brass in Bayelsa State. 2.3 billion. You just said that the total market, the total methanol market globally is 60-something billion dollars. Here we are using 2.3 billion for a single methanol plant, whereas that can be splitted. And you see, methanol plants are set up at locations close to feedstock. So if there is gas in Brass, which we all know there is gas in Brass, and a methanol plant is to be built there, must it be that gigantic, looking at the cost implication? Can't we think back the errors, the mistakes we made during the refineries, where we had these technologies built, used to build these refineries, and we don't have turnaround maintenance know-how because our citizens, our professionals, our experts were not participatory in the process to acquire technology. So what I would say is this, is a process. The first thing is this: identify those that have done this globally. There's the Methanol Institute. I think it's situated in Singapore. The head office is headquartered in Singapore. Methanol Institute. And they have companies that are in partnership with them. These companies
Well, we just lost Nutsu in that connection issue, but once that's restored, we'll have Nutsu join us back again, and then we'll continue the conversation with him. But he has talked about so many things, Femi, how much Nigeria stands to gain if it invests and make sure that it has the value chain for methanol production. But we've seen what happened with crude oil, and sometimes it looks as if the gift is here or the primary product is here, but the technology and everything necessary to harness it is missing.
There's always this adage that if there's the will, you always have the will. What is important here is the will, you know. Talking about the technology, of course, that's it. Not just in Nigeria. If you look at Africa as a channel, anything that has to do with tech, because some of those things are not being localized. It will involve collaboration with international experts who, most of the time, will have to bring in expatriates or their own presence here to ensure that they supervise this kind of project and also implement it. So here is the issue. What are the policies being put in place to ensure that investment is done in this area? We are blessed when it comes to these resources. When it comes to solar, talk about biomass, talk about hydro, Africa is blessed. But do we have the right framework, the right policies to encourage investment in these areas? And when you look at what Nigeria is doing now, as we speak now, with the steps being taken by the federal government to encourage more investors in that sector, it's going to help. So that's what we call the will. If the will is there, you always have means of doing these things. Talking about methanol, you know, the technology is not readily available, but if the investment is done in a way that it gives room for private entities to come in, we have the natural resources to make these things happen. It will work. But by and large, the greatest challenge has to be the fact that we've not been able to maximize all these resources based on the fact that we're doing wonderfully well with hydro. But where are we now? When it talks about national grid, you discover that it has collapsed today, and tomorrow we're generating less than capacity. There are other African countries who are generating more than 5,000 megawatts, but in Nigeria, that's all we could do. It fluctuates between 3,000 and 5,000 megawatts. And most importantly, what we need to do is to also maximize this area. A good example is solar. There should be a deliberate policy to commercialize solar in Nigeria, whereby you can have regional arrangements, you can have communal arrangements. You don't have to be connected to the national grid. This can be done in a way that it will serve a particular area, and a particular service provider could take care of that, and it will take attention from the pressure on the national grid. And when that is done, it helps, the general output. And I like the fact that there are laws being put in place now, like the electricity bill being signed by the president to pay way for this. So these are things that should be done to take advantage of all these resources. In fact, there are private organizations who are providing solar services to organizations, to community. So if that is commercialized or done in a national scale, you discover that it's going to make a lot of effort in helping people to be able to meet their energy needs. So these are part of the things that should be done.
Yes, and while you were talking, you mentioned what countries have been doing to generate energy, while Nigeria battles with generating about 5,000 megawatts, and that's even done with hydro. Now look at South Africa's insistence that they will keep burning coal. Nigeria is also abundantly blessed with coal, but what's have been done with that in recent times? It takes us now to other forms of renewable energy, that Nigeria has the resources here, but not much is being done with them. And not just Nigeria, African countries seem to be blessed with some of these resources, but not much is being done with them. I believe that a kind of partnership can be done where one has the resource, the other has the technology, and it's done in a way where there is no exploitation. You have the resource, so they need the resources because they cannot have technology and not also need the resources. So it has to be negotiation where everybody says, okay, this is what we want, this is what we want from the other, in order to properly harness these things. Because, hey, the transition to renewable energy cannot be complete without collaboration. The West can do it by themselves, Africa can do it by themselves. So everybody just needs to look for what they have, a kind of trade by barter, and that we can
In fact, you even need to see the interesting dimension to the issue of advocacy for zero carbon, or the shifting the attention from coal. Look at the big boys or the big nations. Look at India. China is the greatest utilization of coal when it comes to electricity generation. China is first, followed by India. In fact, last week we read of a story where India is generating about 115 terawatts from coal. You know, when you say 115 terawatts, 1 terawatt is like 1 million megawatts. So if the big
that's
nations,
enough to power.
if the big nations who are advocating for renewable
that's
energy,
enough to power the African continent. If
telling
a country is generating 5,000 megawatts and you have more than 1 million megawatts, so just distribute that, you power the continent.
So if these big nations, you have Germany as well doing quite well when it comes to coal, you know, Germany, India, and China. Then why will you blame Africa if South Africa is coming up with that narrative?
That's why
that
it looks
coal will exist
hypocritical.
for a longer period.
It's like saying, do what I say, don't do what I do.
But I think the proper thing, the ideal thing, is to have a mix. That's why you call the energy mix, a mix of all, and then to serve the interests of your nation.
But like Notso has said, it's about the present need first before the transition to where you want to be. So every country is taking it step by step, depending on how easy it is for them to take that step.
All right, let's get back to our guest. Glad to have you join us. We must apologize for what happened. I hope you can hear me. Okay, now let's talk about our nation, Nigeria. Looking at the situation in Nigeria, as someone who has been following the trends, I would like you to make an assessment of what are the challenges peculiar to our energy mix, and what are some of the solutions that should be put on the table to resolve these challenges as regards energy mix in Nigeria?
One of the things that I will emphasize on is this. You see, you have to actually carry out an assessment to understand what the need is, what should be done, how it should be done. What the need is this. We need reliable energy. What should be done? The energy should be generated in Nigeria. How do we do this is the question. Now, how to get this done? Number one, there are various sources of energy that we can embrace. But which ones do we have the technological know-how to deploy? And what are we doing to acquire or develop this technological know-how? If we look at, let me say, energy for the transport sector, we are still using fossil for PMS. And CNG has also come. People are not yet embracing it. Why? Most people don't have that initial capital or finance to take their vehicle to be for the kit that will help their vehicle function using CNG. Most people don't have that. So you now see people knowing that, yes, I can do this to ease cost of transportation, solve my energy needs in terms of transportation, but I don't have the resources. So what should government do? Government should first of all set up an awakening reorientation program that will get every Nigerian to understand that the transport sector needs to embrace CNG. I'm using CNG as an example. Now people are aware that the transport sector needs CNG. And when the transportation, people are aware that transportation needs CNG, the government should make available intervention funds. You see, government has gone ahead to make funds available for other things, and palliatives when it comes to the people are hungry. But to make interventions available and accessible for those that want to be productive enough, we've not seen it deployed properly, we've not seen it done properly. So government should make available incentives, most especially for people that are into transport business. For instance, if I have a fleet of buses, I can take the particulars of those buses as collateral and the buses themselves as collateral. And government will give me resources to transform those buses into CNG, those vehicles into CNG vehicles, and use them for profitable engagement with the transport sector to make more money and pay government back. All I'm saying is that we can't get this thing done government alone. It has to be a public-private partnership arrangement where government gives the enabling environment, gives incentives, and help to make sure that people are aware, give people the right orientation. Most often what happens here is that there is an incentive and the publicity to let people know that these incentives exist will not be properly done. And those close to government operatives or operators will be aware and not take advantage of it. And they are not actually the best people to assess these things because they might not have the vision nor the will to pass through the funnels. Because take it or leave it, once you start embracing something new, you always have teething problems. And that is what I mean by passing through the funnels. You should have the resilience to know that, yes, there will be challenges and you brace up to meet up with those challenges. So for me, at this point in time, I would say that, number one, government should embrace and ensure that every public player and private player is aware of what needs to be done and put regulatory bodies in motion to get these things done. I think that is what I have to say for now.
All right, that's interesting. We need to go on another break now. We still have our guest analyst with us, but we'll return to have more discussion in this regard. Stay with us.
My name is Yinka Babalola.
My name is Ijoma Pelokoro.
My name is Joshua Hassan.
I am Rotarian or Mosunde Lawson.
It's Ife Yunwarita Ejeze. My friends call me Ife.
My name is Rotarian Lola Dare.
I'm inviting you to keep watching SOUQ News. It's the right station to tune to.
I like SOUQ News. SOUQ News is good.
I want to charge you all to listen to SOUQ News, watch the news.
You can have unlimited news first time.
Find SOUQ News. Be with SOUQ News. Never switch off. You are better for it. SOUQ News is the real thing.
Listen to their coverage and you'll be glad you did.
Turn to your YouTube, turn to your Instagram, turn to all your digital channels and look for SOUQ News.
Keep watching.
Keep watching.
Please, guys, keep watching
SOUQ News.
Broad Street. Broad Street, situated in Lagos Island, is steeped in Nigerian history. Once the biggest financial hub of the country, it housed the headquarters of major banks, linked the CBN, the stock exchange, and the loads of lender companies. Broad Street is a historically significant street. It has played a central role in the development of Lagos and history. an important commercial and administrative center for the British colonial authorities. It was also home to some of the city's earliest modern buildings. Broad Street was a residential area in the pre-colonial era. With the British came the Methodist Boys High School in 1878 and the Broad Street Prison in 1882, renamed Freedom Park. The General Hospital, which was a British military hospital, was built in 1893, being the first general hospital in Nigeria. The old British Secretariat building, which is now the Federal Ministry of Justice, was built in 1906. Broad Street has seen a full turn into modern commercial office blocks, complexes, skyscrapers, and markets from the outer marina through Akpombo, early into the Adeniji Adele Road. Broad Street is one of the busiest streets in Nigeria on weekdays, where commercial activities take place day and night. From modern buildings to ancient structures, this street gives one a raw dose of life in Lagos. Broad Street is often referred to as Lagos Financial District. It boasts a mix of architectural styles, reflecting its long history, colonial-era buildings, Victorian and Edwardian architectural features, alongside more modern skyscrapers and structures. Broad Street remains a vital, vibrant part of the Nigerian economy. Broad Street. SOUQ Enlightenment.
Is this early exchange with Femi Ayodele?
You know, the Early Exchange is all about shaping policy and advancing development with our conversation. Today, we're set to give you the best of programming.
And Blessing Aiche.
We do hope that you enjoy every time you spend with us here today. The world needs peace. The world needs to come to a round table and find solutions to the pockets of troubles.
Early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Many thanks for staying with us on Early Exchange. We've been looking at renewable energy sources transiting from fossil fuel to renewable energy. And we also have Nuso Jojo Cyril talking with us about it. Before we went on a break, Jojo was talking about some of the challenges to having an energy mix. Good to know you're still with us, Nuso. Looking at some of the challenges too with the energy mix, having that integration of both the fossil fuel and renewable energy solutions, do we have what it takes to have that happen? And even for renewable energy that some parts of Africa is embracing, it is quite expensive, at least the upfront cost. How can that, the issue of the fund?
Shortly after this approval was given, and these funds are to come from the gas flare penalty pause. Shortly after this approval was given, the COVID-19 vaccine procurement issue came up. And government had to dip hands into that pause to get some funds to add to other funds. But the funds from the gas flare penalty pause contributed massively to the purchase of the first batch of COVID-19 vaccines. What am I trying to say? You can't rob Peter to pay Paul. You can't deprive the energy sector what it needs because the health sector needs something. Because it is actually the energy sector that powers every other activity related. For government to provide to commit some resources, counterpart funding, and then create the enabling environment so that the investor, whether the individual, local, sourcing international funds or not, the investor feels secured that at least this venture will take some time before government regulations that will come with respect to change of governance will affect operations and activities. So the way forward is government should prioritize these things, and operators of government should take it as a burden, a challenge, to see that these things get the needed attention. Else, we'll be still between merry-go-round. Thank you.
All right. Let's wrap up with this statement credited.
With respect to that, if we now look at the use of coal for electricity generation, people are benefiting from it. And because people are benefiting from it, and government, the global powers, governments of the universe, so to say, they have not addressed how to stop methane venting. And one of the ways to stop methane venting is to embrace methanol value chain, convert the methane to methanol. Methane is the feedstock, primary feedstock for methanol production. So if I'm to answer your question directly, the zero net emission vision 2050 is going to be a mirage if we don't identify and state clearly how to stop methane venting and emission.
It could warm the heart of someone.
All right, we all know it's a trying time globally, given the economic conditions and the high cost of living. But my advocacy to you is ensure you make yourself happy. You are in charge of your own happiness because you are the CEO of your happiness, of your own life. And therefore ensure that you do everything to make yourself happy and manage the situations